This is the story of Krillic, the face of my channel, and my own self, Chris, and how this fictional character managed to weave deeply into my daily life and ultimately save my life. Krillic existed before all of this, before this channel, before I even thought of trying to embody who they are, and it all started with a story. While it is from a D&D game I played years ago, you don't need to know anything about D&D to understand what I'm about to tell you. There's so much story to tell, but only a fraction of it will be told here. Krillic Grimfrey was born to two seemingly normal parents, but it turns out through some ancestry or curse on his mother's side, Krillic was born with red skin, pure yellow eyes, and a devil's tail. Shunned by his father, and in turn by his mother due to his father's treatment, he eventually ran away from home at the age of 18. He made a living in fight pits where you're supposed to kill the loser, but he never soiled his hands. And when the day came, and he met Tidith, another devil-blooded individual, he lost and ran away before he could be killed. Krillic was branded a coward. In this stage, he was a wanderer, and over the course of time, he would find a new home and a father figure, Emeth Feandro, a blacksmith who took him in. Krillic earned his stay and began to find peace for a short while. Unfortunately, months later, Tidith found his new home while he was away, and Krillic came back to his home in fire and rubble, Tidith holding Emeth by the neck in the air, and Krillic turned coward and ran once again. From here, the story becomes so much more, and I'm going to streamline it for you. The world was falling apart, and the royal family needed a nobody, somebody unrecognizable to the public to take care of their daughter, Princess Taldala Wipfli, and Krillic took that role. Over the course of 2.5 years in real life, I experienced a life through Krillic. Wipfli was a pain and responsibility, but became a younger sister I became attached to. She was brilliant, challenging everyone to chess and beating them all for that matter. She tinkered, created, and was curious about everything. She was loud and lovable. Krillic began to care more about not only her, but friends he made along the way, Cade and Makoa, and started to believe he just wasn't strong enough to protect them. So he made a pact with a greater creature, a woman in his dreams, beautiful and wreathed in flame, and he was granted greater power. After being set on their quest, attaining an artifact that could help them save the world that is falling apart, Wipfli played with fate, and she suddenly died. Her soul ripped from her body, all by pure chance, really. Krillic's life was full of mistakes and unfortunate circumstances. The running joke was, it can't get any worse, but it always did. His trouble was always lessened by those who were with him, often found to be Cade and the newly joined Saber. The largest of his issues being that he found out the ones that are tearing apart his world was actually one of the people he made his pact with. While he was able to separate from this pact in time, it sowed a moment of distrust among his friends. Eventually, he returned home and had to confront the royal family. Bowing before the elder sister Wipfli, Cassina, he apologized, willing to take any punishment. But instead, he was shown a singular flower, a lily, that he was told as long as it was alive, so was the soul and life of Wipfli, that all will turn out well. In his time at home, he stayed with that flower for a full week before they set off to solve the immediate issue of his home, a full-on war. Preparing for said war, he crossed paths with Tidith again, gone insane from his own battles. Once brought to his knees, not by Krillic but by his allies, Krillic asked him if he would want mercy. Responded with no. Krillic killed Tidith for what he had done to his father. The war itself was the clashing between two Fey courts, Summer and Winter. Krillic set with his allies not only were able to defeat their own target, but Krillic also lay the final blow on the king of the Winter court. In turn, Cassina turned to Krillic and branded him as Knight of the Winter Court, as she herself became the queen. A moment of recognition and redemption in Krillic's eyes. The final section of Krillic's story was the hardest, really. The final choices had to be made as they found the full story of the villains they were against all along. The demigods trying to create a new world that they felt would be better, would reward good and punish evil. But Krillic and Cade sided with staying in this world, and fixing it. Unfortunately, this meant Saber was not on their side anymore, but they were doing what they deemed best for their people, a noble cause. That day, he lost a close friend, as, in a great clash, Saber passed. Krillic projected an image to the warriors of that day, to everyone, the image of family, of fighting for something more than oneself, of hope. At the end of it all, there were only 2 moments left. They were able to just barely save Wipfli, and they entered the final battle. The greatest issue of which was that, throughout all of this, Krillic was trusted to hold all of the artifacts and become a towering titan made of the elements to fight the demigods. This trust was given to him by everyone, even Saber before his last moments. This would also cause the sacrifice of his allies, and his best friend Cayde, who had been with him since the beginning. Krillic was able to transform, prevent the sacrifice, and ultimately seal away the demigods after the final battle. But sealing them away meant Krillic was reduced to nothing. His body was made of the elements needed to seal them away. The one he made the pact with praised him in those final moments. "You've come so far, and become something so much more than you were." His response? "Thank you. And if only we weren't on opposite sides." And Krillic was no more. At least until he woke up on a white sandy beach. Something I wasn't expecting in the slightest. I was emotional. I accepted that he was gone. But then he was spoken to by one who gave him an important lesson. The Jade Phoenix, a representation of second chances. And he was brought to a forge exactly like Amethyst, except it had a globe above the hearth. That globe allowed him to view all the people he loved at home through it. He saw Cayde making a family, and he saw Wipfli telling the tales of their adventures as his first cleric. He had spoken with them in that moment, finding out years had passed since that last fight. And through all that Krillic had done, Krillic had inadvertently become the god of hope. Krillic was originally only supposed to have my trait of bottling things up, but he accidentally had another trait of mine, my inability to trust myself, to actually believe I deserve what I have earned, my imposter syndrome. Despite all his hardships, he always tried to do what was best. And I wanted to embody that last part for years, because I needed to. Because I didn't want to be alive anymore. I spent years seeing myself as a tool for others in need, to help everyone else. And when everyone is in a better place, just as a used tool goes, I can be thrown away. So when that time came, I would go through with my plan. I won't go into the details of my plans, but every day I gave myself new reasons to stay. But it was hard. I had given up my dream of going into entertainment. People openly stated how much they hated my voice, or how I should give up, how what I was doing just wasn't worth it, and how I could be easily replaced. Hardship after hardship also made it very difficult to escape this mental cycle, but things did change. 6 years later, I find myself being surrounded by people who I love and love me in return. More and more and more. People who understood and supported me. People who would be open and honest with me. People who would tell me what I needed to hear, not just what I wanted to hear. And ever there was a problem, we could properly resolve it and move past it as we grew closer. And because of them, I've been able to do some incredible things I would have never guessed I could do. Bringing people together, making people laugh and cry, raising $1,400 for the Children's Hospital, something beyond myself. I literally cannot do that by myself. And saving others from their own darkness, all while doing something I'm very happy to be doing. And now I made it. I might not be making a living off of YouTube, but I am fully partnered. A massive step. This channel went by a number of different names, but when it became Krillic, I, Chris, started to realize something that I was told over and over by those who know this story already. I am Krillic. I am Chris. I am a light to those around me. I have done amazing things and will undoubtedly continue to reach my goals. I am a beacon of hope, and as Krillic did, when I finally realize this and accept it, accept the trust and the recognition, then I can achieve amazing things. I am still in the process of accepting that now, accepting that I am what I would like to call a champion of hope. And I couldn't have done this without all of you. My life and dream has been sparked into a bright flame once more. So from me to you, know that you are all champions of hope to me. A special thank you goes out to Steve, known as Saber, Jace, known as Cade, and Robert for being the creator of the world I got to play as Krillic in. These people have seen Krillic from the very beginning. And thank you for everything. Thank you for listening to this. This is really hard. And I wanted it to stay as genuine as I could keep it. I did want my camera on because I knew I would cry, and I don't like the idea of crying on camera. I'm sorry. But know that this is only the beginning. There's so much more that I have planned, and so much more I want to do, and so many people I want to help. This is future Chris a few days later after I recorded all these lines and before I got the piece that you've been looking at this entire time. And it's all thanks to Argami Flos, who did this art. And I remember waking up to the message showing me the art, and I cried. This never happened. this never happened. Krillic was not a kid around Whipley, but I'd love to believe that just an alternate universe where Whipley and Krillic grew up as siblings somehow and had a good life, something that Krillic never really had. And I have to give my special thanks to not only Ark for drawing this piece and being the first person. Damn it happened again. It's like days later and I can't not cry talking about Whipley, but the first person to ever draw Whipley. And then another thanks goes back to actually Cupcake Artist, who was the first person to ever draw Krillic. And even Lichingu for actually doing the art that I use for the channel for Krillic's profile. I don't have words for this. The person who talks so much has no words for what they've done as well. So from the bottom of my heart, one last time, thank you to everybody. And as always, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't do anything I would do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye.